Hello, I am Sharon Roberson Pinder, and I'm the President and CEO of the Capital Region Minority Supply Development Council and the operator of the U.S. Department of Commerce Minority Business Development Agency Business Center located in the Commonwealth of Virginia. This year, we're incredibly excited because we are celebrating 50 years of advocating for and connecting with our corporate members and connecting them to our well-established, competitively viable minority-owned firms. Today, in this special 50th anniversary episode, we celebrate and pay tribute to an innovative leader, and businessman, Mr. David Gadis. But before we start the conversation with him, let me just tell you a little bit about him. This is not his first induction to the Hall of Fame, as I understand it. He is, however, the CEO and general manager of DC Water. In this role, he oversees all authority, including a $1 billion annual budget, a workforce of 1,100 employees, and the largest advanced wastewater treatment plant in the world. I'd like to hear about that. Under his leadership, DC Water has emerged as a leader within the water sector on environmental justice and water equity programs, such as the lead-free DC program, which is eliminating all lead service lines within the district by 2030. Mr. Gadis has extended economic equity to the community through changes to the Authority Business Development Plan, which has improved access to contract opportunities for small and disadvantaged businesses, an apprenticeship program that offers classroom and on-the-job training, as well as the establishment of the Authority's first ever Business Diversity Advisory Council, of which I'm a part. I'm very proud. He also serves as chairman of the board of Blue Drop, DC Water's nonprofit sales and marketing affiliate, and is a frequent presenter at utility and government services conferences and with the National League of Cities and the National Association of Public-Private Partnerships. And before I bring him on, you should know that prior to his service at DC Water, he led Veolia Water Indianapolis, CEO and president of Veolia Water Indianapolis. He was the first African-American CEO president and the first African-American CEO to lead a major utility in Indianapolis, Indiana. So please help me welcome Mr. David Gadis. Good day, sir.
Thank you so much.
So you have to tell us about your induction into the Hall of Fame in basketball, University of Indianapolis. Indiana.
Yeah, that was in 2014. I had the honor of being inducted into the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, which is truly one of the greatest honors that you can receive in Indiana as a basketball player. And there's Larry Bird's in there and Oscar Robinson and such players like that. And I went in on my first ballot. And so a lot of people, it takes them 2 or 3 ballots before they get in, and some never get in. So I was fortunate enough to get in. And then soon after that, my brother was inducted into the Hall of Fame 2 years later. So we're very, very, very happy to be one of the only brother duos that are inducted into the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame. Well, and it was fantastic.
Well, and that sounds like, and congratulations, that is just an incredible honor. And so you've got to tell me, so when did you start passing that ball? How old were you when you first started playing ball?
My dad started us out at an early age. I was 6 years old when I started playing basketball. My brother was 4 years old. So we got started really, really early, and my father pushed us incredibly hard, but it was our choice. He said, "Hey, do you really want to play this game? And if you want to, I'll help you." And to be honest with you, I was a horrible player when I first started playing. I remember when I was 7 years old, out of 10 games in the league that I played in, I scored 1 point. Now, I say I scored 1 point, but it was really 0 points because they didn't count the basket because I jumped over the free throw line. But I was a horrible player. But I got better.
It seems that you have to tell me the transition between, I would imagine, I'm making assumptions, being the baller that you were, that your intention was to play pro ball.
My parents, really, they were straight shooters.
Okay.
And they talked about, my dad he was one of these guys. He was doing what I would call, taking a look at where you are and where somebody else is. And he was doing the math. And he said, your chances of playing in the NBA are slim to none. So the best thing for you to do is to get an education.
Mm,
And the one thing he said to me was, use the game, don't let the game use you.
mm.
And what he meant by that was, don't go to school for 4 years of college and don't get a degree. He said, you've got to get a degree, and that's using the game because you got something out of the game versus the game taking everything out of you. So pro basketball was something I really didn't take a look at real hard, even though I did try out, but I knew that it was going to be short-lived because of my height and speed, and everyone else gets better and better. And so it just wasn't for me. What was for me was getting an education and then figuring out where I want to go from a business standpoint.
So why business? Why the interest in business?
Well, I initially tried to do the SMU. I worked for the SMU Basketball Network, so I did color commentary for the SMU Basketball Network, and then I also then figured out that you know what, you got to work in some really small cities and come up in that media world,
Mm-hmm.
and so I decided I wanted to be a graduate assistant. Is what I decided I wanted to be at Purdue University. Well, my mother and father knew that being a graduate assistant, I wasn't going to be paid. So they basically said, you're going to get a job. And they got me an interview with my uncle at the Quaker Oats Company. And I landed with the Quaker Oats Company. It was my first job out of college.
Okay. Okay. And the rest, they say, is history.
Yes.
When did you get in this industry? When did you make that move to this industry?
So I am third generation water. My grandfather worked in the business from 1932 to 1962. My dad worked in the business from 1962 to 2002. There was always a no nepotism rule at the Indianapolis Water Company. And so, as you see, my dad didn't start working there until my grandfather left. I started working in the Indianapolis Water Company the day that my dad retired. He retired in 1998, but he stayed on as a contract employee. So I could then go to work at Indianapolis Water Company. So I started working there in 1998. But prior to that, I worked there in the summers from 16 years old until I was 21, 22 years old, all the way through college. And I did a lot of summer work there at the Indianapolis Water Company. And I actually learned the business from the ground level up.
You know, I think a lot of people, until something happens, take water for granted.
Oh, yeah.
And unless you don't have it, you don't understand that water is life. And I was in Africa once, and we were there doing wells. And I remember that was the first time somebody said that to me, that I heard it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I understand why it's kind of fascinating. So tell us exactly what it is that it makes it. I mean, it is life, but why it's what you do so important.
So there's a couple of things that we do that are very important when it comes to water. And I'm kind of like you. I've asked people, try and go a half a day or a day without water,
Mm-hmm.
and tell me how that works out for you. So, for us here at DC Water, is a couple of things. First of all, we take water that is not very clean, and we clean that water up and we put it back out into the Potomac. So it goes into the Chesapeake and then eventually ends up in the ocean. And that water is of higher quality of water than when we got it. And that's very important for us to be able to give back to our environment something that we took out and put it back, though, in a very environmentally friendly way. And then the other side is on water itself versus wastewater. So on water itself, water is needed in a lot of industry here in the district and in this country. So without water, you don't have air conditioning, you don't have your heat at night and those sort of things. Water drives a number of things, the production of clothing and so forth and so on, but also for the human body and the consumption. And then also, especially with COVID, we realized immediately when COVID hit that people needed water. Everyone needed water in order to wash their hands. So as a result of that, we immediately turned on everyone's water service in the district, even though they had been turned off for non-pay or whatever. We said, turn everyone back on. And we did that. And that was so that people could combat COVID. So water is life. And without it, we would not have life.
Okay. Tell us about the, it says that you operate the largest advanced wastewater treatment plant in the world. So what does that mean in the
Well, first of all, we take sewage and storm and those sort of water, storm water from Virginia, Maryland, and the district. So we are a regional utility. We are not just a district utility. And as a result of that, taking those from those other communities, it makes us one of the largest companies in the world to intake water. But what makes us the largest as well from an advanced wastewater treatment plant is the way that we treat the water. The water, if you look at the Potomac, you can actually see the water that comes from that comes out of DC Water's plant.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It is a beautiful, beautiful green color versus the water that is already in the Potomac. The water is treated to a level that it's almost drinkable. Not quite. So we don't advise anybody to drink the water that comes out of our plant, but it is very, very close. Also, we what makes us great is that we take the solids from the wastewater side and we turn it into a fertilizer. And you can use it in your plantings in your home. Farmers use it. We even have some of the other district agencies that use it as they're planting grass or trees or whatever it may be. Instead of hauling those solids to a dump, we actually reuse those solids, and that's what makes us the largest wastewater plant in not only U.S. but in the world.
How long have you had that distinction?
Oh wow, that's a great question. It dates back to probably the mid 2010,
Okay.
2011, somewhere in there.
So relatively recent, really.
Yes. Oh yes,
In
definitely.
terms of, yeah. Wow. So when you look back over your shoulder and look back over your career, um, what would you say would be three the most important things you learned along the way? You've given us some nuggets already, particularly what you learned from your parents, the education piece, and that kind of thing. But looking to over your career, what kind of bubbles up as like three important things?
Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind is to understand your weaknesses as a leader. And what's key about that is if you understand your weaknesses and truly understand those weaknesses, it allows you to then bring the right people in to then help you with those weaknesses,
Mhm.
but you continue to put your strengths on the table, and that makes for a great setting. So I think for me, number one for me was identifying what are my weaknesses and versus what are my strengths.
Okay.
And then the second one is with that is to build a solid team. Because once you understand what those weaknesses are, you can then go out and hire individuals and build that solid team that can really help you from that standpoint. And then the last one is having a strategic plan. You've got to have a strategic plan in place and then be able to have the patience to watch that strategic plan be executed. Because the strategic plan takes you to where you want to go and who you want to be, but it takes patience in order to get there. So I think those three things: understanding your weaknesses, building that solid team to work with you, and then also building that strategic plan and having patience.
Hmm. Yeah, that's great. Any mentors along the way that you can share with us and
Well,
how
I'm
impactful?
one of those.
Hmm.
I'm one of those people. I've had thousands of mentors
Hmm.
because I look at those people that don't do good things, that I don't want to be like. That's a
Hmm.
mentor as well. Not just people that tell you what the right things are, but I look at the good and the bad and the ugly. And I've had many, many mentors. But for me, it's my mom and dad.
Hmm.
Those were the two mentors for me, because I knew that the two of them would never uh, lie to me, and they were only telling me that there were things that would help me. And so those are the two mentors that really hit with me and resonate with me.
Any favorite kind of quotes or anything of that nature?
Oh wow. I don't know if this was, I don't know. I never looked this up to see if it was original,
Hmm.
but the one quote And it was told to me when I was younger. And my mom always said this, and she would say, you know, if you hoot with the owls at night, you can't soar with the eagles at dawn. And so that stuck with me. Even when I became a teenager and I started going out, you know, she would say, remember, you can't hoop. If you hoop with the owls at night, you can't soar with the eagles at dawn. And what she really meant was you need to get rest. You must take care of yourself. And then you must be ready for the next day's event. And that's school or work or basketball, whatever it may be. And that was the thing that really, you know, jumped off the table at me. And then, you know, my dad would say to me, he would say, from him, the one that I remember is that you must touch every line. And what he meant by that was it was related to basketball, but his thing was that even in the work, that when you're the leader and you're out in front, even if you're running a lap and you have to touch a line, everyone is watching you. And so you must touch every line. You've got to do everything the right way. There are no shortcuts. And so his thing was, remember, you have to touch every line because you're out in front and everyone's watching you. And so I think those are the two, you know, sort of types of advice that I got from two of my great mentors.
Yes, I love that. Must touch every line. When you look at just your management style, the culture, I've always been taught that the key to the culture resides at the top. And so and then you're a strategic thinker and you believe in strategic plans and that kind of thing. What has been the strategic thought around diversity and inclusion? Because what we have said in the selection of you being inducted in our Hall of Fame is also around your innovation of inclusion. Could you share some of that with us?
Well, you know, for me, this goes back to when I first got in the industry and I started being involved with the council in Indiana, in which at one point I also served as the chair for that council in Indiana for the Minority Supplier Development Council in Indiana. And you know, for me, it was about, I think, holding myself accountable, but also my team accountable from the standpoint of purchasing. And so I led purchasing when I first got into this industry. And one of the things I always thought about was how do we make sure that we level the playing field? My job was not to make sure that people of color or minority firms got business per se, because they can get the business, and I know that they have the capabilities of getting the business as long as the playing field is level. So that is what I always looked at and said, the playing field must be level. I moved away from what they call back, 20 years ago, pass-throughs. I don't believe in pass-throughs. Because I don't believe that does anyone any good. And so as a result of that, I really, really wanted to make sure that the playing field was level, all the way down to if you had to buy pipe for a job, if you were a construction firm, you bought the pipe at the same price that another firm bought the price for. And that's leveling the playing field. And so that's what I always work very, very hard to do in looking at doing business with minority firms.
Given the current economic climate, the current socioeconomic climate, where do you see minority businesses in the future, particularly when we look at things that have happened over the last couple of years, whether it was George Floyd with the pandemic, coming out of going into, whatever that is, recession or whatever, where do you see the future?
So I think the future for me is that, as again, I go back to when I first came into this business and I was looking at, supplier development, to move away from that formally whole thing about pass-throughs, to move away from the set-asides per se. I want minority firms to become primes. That is what I work towards every single day in what I'm doing, is that those firms, they're not just being trained to continue to be subcontractors for other firms or subs in any sort of way. Move into a position where you are the prime. That's when we know that we have done our job in helping educate, develop my small and also now bigger minority firms is that we have leveled the playing field and we've moved them into a position to actually be a prime.
That is outstanding. Outstanding. I love that. Anything that that I have not asked that you'd like to share with our audience?
Well, I mean, the only thing I would say is that I look forward. I look forward to continuing to work with the small businesses here in the capital region, bringing them and making them a part of the DC Water family. I don't look at individuals or firms that we do business with as contractors or whatever they may be called. They're truly partners.
Mm-hmm.
They are a part of the DC Water family because we have work that we must execute and do, and they become a part of that execution. And I will continue to do what I've done in the past and continue to do it in the future. But I think also is passing this down to that next leader. The next person that sits in my chair, I want them to understand that the whole minority business piece for us is real. It's not just something that we talk about. It's not just a number we have to hit. It is where we are truly working with firms and leveling the playing field and making them part of the DC Water family.
That's outstanding. Outstanding. Well, we certainly appreciate your time today. And so what's so how long have you been in the area now?
I've been here 4.5 years now.
It's been that long.
It has been. It has been. Yes.
I don't know why I thought it hadn't been that long. So yeah, you're ingrained now, right?
I feel like a Washingtonian for real now.
Right.
Yeah.
So outstanding. So thank you so much for your time today, and congratulations on your induction into the Capital Region Minority Supply Development Council's 50th anniversary Leaders in Legend Hall of Fame as one of our innovators. And somebody asked me about that just this morning. Why did we call this area innovation? Because of the leaders that were selected, you and Calvin Butler of Exelon and Ricky Smith at BWI Thurgood Marshall Airport. The three of you gentlemen have really a commitment in diversity and inclusion in your organizations and have really changed the culture and fabric of your organization for inclusion. So we consider you our business innovators, and congratulations on the success you've already achieved. And we applaud you for the future because we know that there are going to be bigger and better things coming out of DC Water, where water is life, right?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm humbled, and thank you very, very much.
And we look forward to sharing that evening with you, and hoping that you will enjoy your time with us. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it very, very much. Thank you.